the Browning BDM. Let's check it out. The Browning BDM was introduced in 1991 to compete in the FBI selection trials. It didn't make it, and by 1998 all production had ceased. This is a very unique firearm, very similar in appearance to the Browning High Power, but yet a totally different design. And so we're going to take a look at all the different features, but this is one of the thinnest combat handguns made. And first thing we'll do is make sure the gun is unloaded, remove the magazine, check the chamber, and we're empty. Now here we have it right next to a traditional Browning High Power. There are some similarities. The BDM definitely looks more modern, looks more updated. And it is. And obviously it's got the double action, which the Browning High Power only has single action. And then of course the molded grips, which the later Browning High Powers have the molded grips as well. But there's some advantages obviously with the double action over just the single action and having to carry this cocked and locked. But it does have somewhat of a slide cut here, but it's not near as pronounced as your Browning High Power. One of the things I love about the High Power is that it has a very thin slide. Very reminiscent of the 1911, but actually even thinner. With the BDM, the slide is just as thin. In fact, it's 0.91 inches in width. And then the grip, which is much thinner than even your Browning High Power. This is considered to be the thinnest combat 9mm pistol made. So this is a really ergonomic gun. I mean, unless you have really large hands, this really fits medium to small hands very well. Even better than the High Power, which to me, for a double stack magazine, the High Power has always been a very ergonomic gun. Now, other than just having some family resemblance, the BDM is definitely a totally different design. But also the BDM was made only in North America, made here in the US, and I believe it was made some in Canada. BDM stands for Browning Dual Mode, or Double Mode. This is a double action pistol compared to the single action pistol of the original Browning High Power. When they made this gun for the select trials for the FBI, it was pretty much when a lot of police agencies were carrying revolvers. And so there were some features on this gun to address that. Now you're going to notice right here this little disc, and there's a slot in it. There's a P where it's sitting on, and then there's an R down here. And P stands for pistol mode, R stands for revolver mode. Now in pistol mode, when you rack the slide, the hammer comes back into single action, which is typical for your double single action pistols. And then once you fire it, of course, it comes back and the hammer remains in the rear position. On the first shot, it is a long double action pull. Now, this little disc, and you can actually take your magazine, there's a little lip right here on the back of your base plate, and you can turn, or you can use a screwdriver or a knife, just turn it to revolver mode. Now, that means that when the gun is racked, it's going to go right back into double action. So you fire it, it racks, it's back into double action every time. So that makes it a double action only setup, which it's not anything to do really with a revolver, but for those that are used to shooting revolvers, they can correspond that R with revolver. So you have a double action only, and then you can switch it back to pistol, and then you have a standard double action, single action pistol. We're going to go ahead and bring it back to the pistol mode, And it's really easy to change. In fact, you could do it with your thumbnail if you wanted to, or again, a spent cartridge or a knife. We're going to start out with pistol mode, then we're going to switch over to revolver mode just to see the action. Now to revolver mode. With the double action, it's definitely taking a little bit longer to get on target. With the trigger pull, it definitely affects your accuracy somewhat, or at least the speed. Now, when you bring it back and the hammer is in the rear position, right here is your decocker. So we bring it down and it drops the hammer. Now, this is in a half cock position, and actually the trigger pull is not near as bad as it is in full double action. And guys, to be honest with you, you're never going to have it in full with the hammer fully resting on the back of the slide. It's always going to be here when you're getting ready to fire. But one of the things, and it's the same thing with the Beretta 92, is that once you decock it, you've got to disengage the safety. Now, I'm not a big fan of that. And unless you really have to become, you have to master this pistol and know the controls. And so that's one of the downsides to me of this pistol. But once it is in the up position, then you have a much less of a trigger pull, and of course then the slide comes back and you have single action. Now, another really cool feature of this pistol is if you bring it back and you hit your slide stop, which is right here. Now you can see how small that is. In fact, it's about the size of a Glock slide stop. You can use the slide stop, or you can use the decocker. And that's another really unique feature. Now, one of the things about using the decocker is now you're in safe mode and you have to bring it back up. If you use the slide release, then it stays in the fire position. So that's just something to note. It is an all-steel pistol. It weighs 31 ounces, so it's not super light. But because of the ergonomics, it makes it feel light. It feels more natural in your hand, and the balance is really nice. Then the ambidextrous decocker on either side, which that's also a nice feature, and then the mag release, which really slings those magazines out. And these things fly out. But one of the biggest issues with this pistol is the magazines. Number one, they're fairly expensive. They can run from $70 to $100 for the original 15 rounders. You can still find 10 rounders, and they do make triple K mags, which are pretty decent mags, and I would definitely go that route. The BDM is not compatible with Browning high power mags, unfortunately. That would be just great. The grips are very well made. Of course, they are super thin, and then you have a little thumb rest that comes up, and it just fits, just molds right to your hand. There's some light checkering right here, and then of course the plastic, there's checkering on the back. It is a one-piece grip, and there's your grip screw. On the front has a really intense checkering right here, which is not too aggressive, but you can definitely get a hold of this pistol. The checkering is old school. I mean, this is incredible checkering. And then also right back here at the rear of the slide, there are two little squares of checkering. The serrations on the slide are fairly small, but they're very easy to grip hold of. That slide just comes back. Again, the little step down, which is typical for your high power, except your high power comes to about right here. But that still gives you that high power look. The sights are covered and snag free. They are somewhat adjustable, and you have your set screw right there, and then the front sight's pinned. But it does have a really nice 3-dot picture. The barrel is 4 3/4 inches. It's 7.5 inches in length. It's 5 1/4 inches in height. And again, the grip itself is 1.2 inches, and then the slide is 0.91 inches. As far as trigger pull, empty magazine, nothing in the chamber. We're going to go ahead and decock and put it in half cock. Your double action, just a little bit of take up here, and then it pulls right through. Of course, reset is right here. Not super quick, but not too bad. Single action, little take up, a nice little crisp snap. Reset, again right here. Now we're going to check trigger pull and double action. 9 pounds 1 ounce, 9 pounds 2 ounces, 8 pounds 15 ounces. So right around the 9 pound mark. Now let's check single action. 4 pounds 10 ounces, 4 pounds 13 ounces, 4 pounds 15 ounces. So around the 4.5 up to getting close to 5 pound mark. Now to disassemble the firearm, first thing you need to do is make sure the decocker is off, because if it's on safe, you're not going to be able to catch your slide. And engage your slide release, bring around your takedown lever, and then drop the slide release and it comes right off. I mean, it's a very simple design, and that's one thing that's an improvement over the standard Browning high power. It was a little more tricky to disassemble. Here we have our standard steel guide rod and recoil spring, and then the barrel, which is a modified Browning design, obviously. One of the things though that differentiates the BDM is this little cut right here, which is more like the SIG, and it fits right back here in the back of the slide, which has a good solid lockup, that big lug. Now the firing pin block right here is pretty unique. In fact, there's a little lever, and when it goes on the slide, it lifts up, and that way you can engage your hammer to your firing pin. Brought down, it won't fire. The firing pin is not in line. Real strong slide rails inside. Pretty simple looking, but the looks can be deceiving. The internals here with the decocker and being able to go into different modes, there's a lot going on in here, and once you really disassemble this part, it does take a lot of work. But for basic maintenance, this is all you need to do, just this quick field strip. Reassembly in reverse order: your barrel, bring your guide rod and recoil spring, lace it over your slide, engage your slide stop, drop, and you're back in business. But always remember that you've decocked the pistol, so bring it up. And again, it does fall into the half cock position every time, so you'll never have to fire this all the way down. This is the position of it all the way down, and it's very difficult to grab hold of for the first time. But of course, racking it brings it back, decocking it puts it in half cock. On the slide, Browning arms, Morgan, Utah, and then of course Montreal. On the other side, BDM 9mm Luger, made in the USA. We're going to be testing out some of the LAX factory ammunition. This is 9mm 115 grain. This is new manufactured stuff. I'll have all the links down below, and I really appreciate those guys sending this out for me to test it out. This is made in California, and guys, you know, we need to support gun owners in California because they are under a major assault. We're going to dump it in this little G-code bang box. Perfect size. And this is super easy to take down to the range and easy to load. Shooting just a little low at 7 yards, I was using the LAX 115 grain full metal jacket, and very consistent. That first pull kind of surprised me because I was too busy concentrating on the cameras, but still good little groups. The ergonomics of this pistol remind me a lot of the Browning high power, but much thinner in the grip. The grip is just super thin and very ergonomic. That gives you more confidence when you're pulling the trigger because you just feel comfortable while you're shooting. And that's the way I felt. I like the thinness of the slide. It's very pointable, and that's one of the things about the Browning high power and the 1911 is they're just very pointable handguns. And whether you're shooting single-handed or, you know, with both hands. The LAX ammo just functioned well. I mean, had no hiccups whatsoever. Very clean burning ammunition. Now, when I was at the range yesterday in the bright sunlight, with all the berms. I was shooting some different ammunition. I was shooting some arms core, which can be a little bit smoky. But the smokeless powder in this is very well formulated. So you're getting really clean burning powder. No hiccups whatsoever, no malfunctions, which I didn't really expect. Of course, when you buy an older pistol, you don't know what you're inheriting. And that's one of the things you need to be careful of. You can go to gunbroker.com. A lot of times there are parts and different things for these pistols, or you can go to gun parts, numeric arms, and that's another great source. And getting on the internet, typically you can find a lot of parts unless it's a really obscure pistol. But you know, with Browning quality, I really felt pretty confident, and it paid off. This has been just a wonderful gun to add to my collection. Now, I've been a Browning high power fan for years, and I knew about the BDM and I had been looking for one. I was at a local gun show and they happened to have one on the table. It was $450 with an extra magazine, which the magazines are one of the tough things about these guns. Because of the 1994 assault weapons ban, when these guns were produced, they'd only been out for about 3 years. And so the 15-round magazines went away and then went to 10 rounds. After 2004, when the assault weapons ban sunset, they started producing magazines again, but they are fairly hard to get. In fact, sometimes you can spend $60 or $70 for an extra magazine. Thank goodness this one came with an extra one. Now I want to talk about pros and cons. Pros, it's a Browning, and it reminds me a lot of the Browning high power, but actually more comfortable to put in your hand. More like a CZ as far as in the comfort side of it. Just those grips, the thinness, and again, the pointability of this gun is excellent. Sights are great, and you know, I really have enjoyed shooting it. Being all steel, you know, it really keeps the recoil even down more than it would with a polymer frame pistol. Now, as far as cons go, definitely the decocker is an issue. You know, making sure you get that back on, and that's a training issue. And also being just an older gun, parts accessibility, and you know, we've already addressed that. There are parts available out there. And one of the big ones though is the extra magazines. They are fairly pricey, and you know, if you only get one magazine with the gun, you're really hurting. But getting 2 or 3 magazines would really set this right. So I think that the Browning BDM is an excellent choice. It's very thin. You could actually carry this fairly comfortably if you like full-size pistols. Any day's a good day when you take a Browning to the range. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. First we're going to shoot pistol mode, then we're going to switch over to rifle. We're going to switch over to rifle mode. We're going to start out in pistol mode, then we're going to switch to rifle mode. Now there is some family. Okay. Now other than the few, okay, now other than these mags just fly out. But it has a lot to do with the decocker and some of the things that are going on with this one. Was mitigated because of the way this thing is set up, because I don't even know what I'm talking about. I really don't know exactly what I'm talking about, so I'm going to shut up now. No, I'm not. This gun just